This movie was born thanks to a strange deal and could have become just another B movie. And although the film didn't bring its creators million-dollar fees, it gained cult status and gave Hollywood a new star. Movies Inside Out presents From Dusk Till Dawn is a crime-action horror film about vampires created by Robert Rodriguez and Quentin Tarantino, which still surprises audiences with its genre blending and impresses with its creepy makeup. Why did John Travolta turn down the lead role? What trick did the creators use to lure Salma Hayek into the project? What hidden references does the film contain? And which scene disgusted Tarantino himself? We'll tell you all about this and more in our new video. Make yourselves comfortable. There's a lot of interesting stuff ahead. The creation story. The story of From Dusk Till Dawn began in 1991. At that time, Quentin Tarantino was working on his debut film Reservoir Dogs, and, despite the extremely limited budget, managed to bring in Robert Kurtzman, a specialist in practical effects. Kurtzman was already known for Predator and slashers like A Nightmare on Elm Street 3, but for Reservoir Dogs, he agreed to create that very ear that is cut off from the unfortunate policeman for free. However, Kurtzman decided to help the debutante Tarantino, not just out of the kindness of his heart. Back in 1988, he had written a short story about vampires and very much wanted to turn it into a quality screenplay. Robert realized that he would not be able to cope with this task himself, but Quentin would likely do it brilliantly. It was in exchange for the ear that Tarantino agreed to write a script based on Kurtzman's idea. However, work on From Dusk Till Dawn did not start immediately, and by that time, Quentin had already managed to shoot the cult Pulp Fiction. Initially, Kurtzman planned to take the director's chair himself, but quickly realized that he might ruin the film due to lack of experience. Tarantino's new project also interested many already well-known directors, such as Tony Scott and Renny Harlin. However, Harlin ultimately refused to become the director, believing that it could end up as another B movie. Then Tarantino wanted to direct the film based on his own script, but quickly changed his mind. He had written one of the main roles for himself and decided to focus on his character. At the same time, he had the perfect candidate for the role of director, his good friend Robert Rodriguez. Rodriguez had already made the successful action film Desperado, and Quentin believed that Robert's style was perfect for directing his script. Tarantino turned to the management of Miramax, which had released his previous films, and stated that From Dusk Till Dawn would become his new project, but with Rodriguez as the director. Miramax agreed and launched the production of the film. Casting. There were no problems with the performer of the role of Richie Gecko. Tarantino immediately wrote it for himself. When Robert Kurtzman was still planning to direct the film himself, the role of Seth Gecko was intended for Joseph Pilato, known for the zombie horror Day of the Dead. In 1991, a pilot trailer was even shot with him, but eventually something went wrong. Later, the main contender for the role of Seth became John Travolta. Tarantino offered him a role in From Dusk Till Dawn during the preparation for filming Pulp Fiction, but Travolta immediately refused, stating that he was not interested in vampire movies. However, John's wife, Kelly Preston, appeared in the film. She met Tarantino during the filming of Pulp Fiction and got the role of reporter Kelly Houge.
During a daylight liquor store robbery in Big Springs, the Gecko brothers killed another Texas Ranger.
Then Quentin began considering other good acquaintances: Tim Roth, Steve Buscemi, Michael Madsen, and Christopher Walken. But they were all busy working on other projects. The role was also offered to Antonio Banderas, Jeff Goldblum, and Robert De Niro, but it didn't work out with them either. Thus, Tarantino began to sift through less obvious options. Between Reservoir Dogs and Pulp Fiction, he had worked on an episode of the TV series ER, where one of the main roles was played by George Clooney, at that time mainly a television actor. Quentin decided that Clooney would be a good fit for the role of Seth and invited him to the project. Moreover, Tarantino liked the irony that Clooney would transition from playing a character who saves people to a character who kills them. By the way, for George, Seth became his first leading role in Hollywood, and his fee was only $250,000.
Where's the woman?
What?
You what? The woman, the fucking hostage. Richard, where is she?
Another associate of Quentin, Harvey Keitel, fortunately turned out to be free and gladly accepted the offer to play Jacob Fuller.
Has anybody here read a real book about vampires, or are we just remembering what some movie said?
Thanks to her friendship with Tarantino, Juliette Lewis also joined the film. She had previously played the lead role in Natural Born Killers, based on Quentin's script, and he liked her performance so much that he immediately gave her the role of Kate Fuller.
Where are you taking us?
Mexico.
What's in Mexico?
Mexicans.
The role of her brother Scott went to 16-year-old newcomer Ernest Liu.
Dad, come on, I watch those reality shows. They never let anybody go. Any cop will tell you, in a situation like this, you get a chance, you go for it.
Tarantino offered a small but very bright role of the dancer Santanico Pandemonium to Salma Hayek. The actress had already worked with Robert Rodriguez on Desperado and impressed Quentin there. However, while working on the script, he gave the heroine the nickname Blonde Death. Obviously, it didn't suit the Mexican Hayek, so he came up with a new name. By the way, it refers to the original title of the 1975 Mexican horror film, Satan's Blood. However, in the credits, Hayek's character is listed specifically as Santanico, not Satanico, as in the inspiration film. Whether the creators deliberately changed the spelling or it was simply a typo remains unknown.
I'm not gonna drain you completely. You'll be my slave.
However, Salma was in no hurry to agree to participate in the film. The main reason for refusal was the dance with a python on her shoulders. The actress suffered from a terrible fear of snakes. However, Tarantino did not give up and decided to use a trick. He said that Madonna, with whom he and Rodriguez had worked on 4 Rooms, was very interested in the role of Santanico Pandemonium. Hayek liked the tempting idea of taking the role away from the pop queen, and she eventually accepted the offer. But before starting the filming, the actress underwent a 2-month course to overcome her herpetophobia. There is, however, another version of Salma Hayek's appearance in the film. According to some reports, the role of the vampire stripper was written specifically for Hayek because she greatly helped Rodriguez and Tarantino when they were filming their segment of the anthology, Film 4 Rooms. At that time, they urgently needed an actress to play a stripper shown on TV, and Rodriguez told Salma that there would be no nudity and they would not show her face. She agreed, and the directors were so impressed by her performance that they invited her to From Dusk Till Dawn. Cheech Marine played as many as 3 roles in the film: a border guard, the bar greeter, and Carlos. Since then, Cheech has appeared in almost every film by Rodriguez.
Here at the Titty Twister, we're slashing pussy in half!
As has Danny Trejo, who played the bartender Razor Charlie.
Welcome to the Titty Twister.
For the role of Frost, Fred Williamson had to break all the rules he usually follows when choosing roles. The actor said he only agreed to act in a film if the role met at least 2 of 3 conditions. His character must not be killed, he must win all fights, and he must get a girl in the end. Although Frost was far from the ideal hero for Williamson, he said he died already in vampire form, so it didn't count.
And I kill 1, 2, 3.
Tarantino and Rodriguez, big fans of 70s and 80s horror films, managed to attract visual effects master Tom Savini, who had worked on Dawn of the Dead and Friday the 13th. But this time, he didn't work on special effects. He played Sex Machine.
What's your name, girlie?
Kate, what's yours?
Sex Machine. Pleased to meet you, Kate.
Also appearing in the film was John Saxon, whom the directors loved for his roles in Enter the Dragon and A Nightmare on Elm Street, playing the role of FBI agent Stanley Chase. The role of the shopkeeper Pete Bottoms was played by John Hawkes, and the role of Sheriff Earl McGraw went to Michael Parks. Although the sheriff dies in the film, Parks reprised his role in the duology Kill Bill, Death Proof, and Planet Terror. The filming process. Filming for From Dusk Till Dawn took place in the summer of 1995 and lasted about 5 weeks. Due to the large number of special effects, the creators had to carefully control all expenses to stay within the $19 million budget. For the same reason, for the climactic scene featuring dozens of vampires, only 9 full costumes were made. The others had only heads. As a result, the same 9 actors played all the vampires, who were killed over and over again. Sometimes they were multiplied using computer graphics, mannequins were used in some scenes, and cardboard cutouts were often placed in the background to create the illusion of a crowd. Makeup artists Greg Nicotero and Howard Berger, who worked on many Rodriguez and Tarantino films, along with their team of 10 people, spent whole days applying makeup to the extras and main actors. For example, applying vampire makeup to Tom Savini alone took about 3 hours. The biggest challenge for Quentin Tarantino in his vampire image was the blue lenses. They bothered him terribly. His eyes watered and literally washed out the lenses. But the director and makeup artists insisted on using them, as they made Quentin look more like a corpse. By the way, Nicotero and Berger can also be seen on screen. Nicotero played the long-haired biker from whom Sex Machine steals beer, and Berger played the vampire trucker who bites Sex Machine. Executive producer Lawrence Bender appears at the first table in the diner where we meet Jacob, Kate, and Scott. The interiors for the Titty Twister bar were built in a closed meatpacking plant, and the makeup room was set up in a former freezer. The external set for the bar was built on the site of a dried-up lake near Los Angeles. However, during the shooting of the bar explosion, the pyrotechnics overdid it and ended up completely burning down the set. It had to be rebuilt, causing the team to fall slightly behind schedule. Shortly thereafter, a dust storm began and filming had to be canceled for the whole day. And toward the end of shooting, it started raining, forcing the team to wait again because they needed sunny weather. The work on the film was also hindered by looming union actions. Rodriguez made his low-budget films with non-union crews to save money, and although From Dusk Till Dawn was hard to call low-budget, the director decided not to change his traditions. However, the International Alliance of Theatrical Stage Employees was not pleased that a $19 million film was being shot in Los Angeles with a non-union crew. The Alliance tried to attract the crew into the union, but Tarantino and Bender stated that in that case, the budget would increase by $300,000. Eventually, the Alliance went no further than expressing dissatisfaction, and Miramax agreed to pay health insurance for the crew members. Despite the fact that Guillermo Navarro is listed as the cinematographer, Robert Rodriguez often took the camera himself, using a zoom lens. He frequently zoomed in during takes to create the impression of multi-camera shooting. That's how the numerous transitions to close-ups were filmed. By the way, he developed this technique during the shooting of the Spanish-language film El Mariachi, which was shot for just $7,000. The rat-like monster into which Tom Savini's character transforms was an animatronic model operated by several people. The resulting creature was abundantly covered with gel. Otherwise, it looked more like a dog. The creators were a bit sorry to burn the $40,000 puppet, but they consoled themselves by saying that an actor in makeup would have cost even more. Many of the body parts scattered around the bar were also saved from other films, particularly from Pulp Fiction. Interestingly, the first vampire appears only in the second hour of the film, and there were no mentions of vampires or a gruesome final massacre on the posters. An original surprise for the audience expecting a standard crime thriller. Rodriguez deliberately made this move to surprise the audience. Also, according to the director, by blending genres, he tried to bridge the gap between mainstream cinema and the underground. Rodriguez stated that the monologue by Jules from Pulp Fiction, where he quotes the 17th chapter, 25th verse of the Book of Ezekiel, was originally intended for Harvey Keitel's character Jacob, but for some reason, it never made it into From Dusk Till Dawn. In the first version of the script, Tarantino kept both Gecko brothers and all the Fullers alive. But later, he decided to rewrite some moments, believing that the film would be more interesting with casualties.
This is not me. I am a professional f***ing thief. I don't kill people that I don't have to.
Also, according to the script, Frost was supposed to fight Razor Charlie with a pool cue, and Sex Machine was supposed to throw vampires onto table legs, but in the finished film, their actions were switched. It can be noted that Richie Gecko has very few lines. Quentin, who usually writes a lot of dialogue for his characters and is himself very talkative, noticed this oddity too late, and there was no opportunity to rewrite the role.
You been, man?
Sightseeing.
What'd you see?
Cops.
See the border?
Yes, I saw the border.
The snake on Santanico Pandemonium's shoulder is a Burmese albino python. Amusingly, some of the growling sounds of the rat vampire into which Sex Machine transforms were made by Robert Rodriguez's little son Rocket, who was just learning to speak at the time. As is known, Tarantino is a devoted cinephile and loves hiding interesting Easter eggs referencing his favorite movies. Besides the Mexican horror film that gave Hayek's character her name, Quentin recalled the cult vampire horror comedy The Lost Boys from 1987. It features the Frog Brothers, frogs, and the brothers in From Dusk Till Dawn got the surname Gecko. Scott Fuller wears a t-shirt with Precinct 13 written on it, a reference to the movie Assault on Precinct 13 by John Carpenter, one of Tarantino and Rodriguez's favorite directors. The whip used by Sex Machine to fight vampires refers to the vampire-killing whip from the Castlevania video game. And Richie's broken glasses are a tribute to the poster for the film Straw Dogs. The Fuller family got their surname in honor of writer and director Samuel Fuller, known for his low-budget genre films. And if you look closely, you can see that on Cheech Marin's border guard badge it says Oscar Marin, the real name of the actor's father, who served as a Los Angeles police officer. Interestingly, even the title of the film is a big reference. It was taken from drive-in theater signs and meant a continuous night showing. Tarantino also included a few self-references in the film. It can be seen that Seth buys Big Kahuna burgers, familiar to the audience from Pulp Fiction. And Seth Gecko's phrase,
Okay, Ramblers, let's get rambling,
is a quote from Reservoir Dogs. At the beginning of the film, we watch the Gecko brothers from the point of view of a woman lying in the trunk. This is a signature shot of Quentin's, which he uses in almost all his films. Moreover, Tarantino, known for his foot fetish, didn't deny himself the pleasure of admiring bare female feet in From Dusk Till Dawn. His character Richie looks at Kate's feet when he holds her at gunpoint in the RV, drinks alcohol from Santanico Pandemonium's foot, and tells a hostage to take off her shoes before getting into bed. The phrase,
No thanks, I already had a wife,
was improvised by George Clooney. Rodriguez didn't plan to include it in the final cut, but after it ended up in the trailer by the studio's decision, he was forced to leave it in the film. Seth's tattoo also appeared thanks to Clooney. He was inspired by the recently watched New Zealand film Once Were Warriors. Another product of improvisation was Santanico Pandemonium's dance. According to Salma Hayek, she refused to use a choreographer because she believed it was impossible to choreograph a dance with a live snake. As a result, Rodriguez simply told her to feel the music and trust her instincts. Actually, he used the same tactic later with Jessica Alba in Sin City. By the way, according to the script, Hayek's character was supposed to dance to Down in Mexico by the Coasters. But in the end, the director replaced it with After Dark by the Chicano rock band Tito and Tarantula. The musicians appear on screen as the house band at the Titty Twister. By the way, Rodriguez had already worked with Tito and Tarantula on Desperado. Interestingly, the vampire's blood was made green not just for style. The creators had to do this because otherwise, the censors would never have allowed the film to be widely released. Although there's plenty of red blood in the film too, the script did not specify exactly what should happen during the bar fights, so the team made up stunts on the fly. As a result, Tom Savini got so into the role of sex machine that in the scene where he throws characters around, he actually hit many actors and stuntmen hard. When Seth and Richie Gecko watch the news on TV, they see Kelly Preston playing a reporter interviewing FBI agent John Saxon. Strangely, Preston and Saxon both died in July 2020 within 2 weeks of each other. Rodriguez and Tarantino said that From Dusk Till Dawn turned out to be an unofficial double feature. Tarantino handled the crime story, while Rodriguez took care of the vampire massacre. Which part do you like more? Movie mistakes and errors. And now the most exciting part. Let's break down the funny mistakes and unexpected errors from Dusk Till Dawn that might have gone unnoticed. Problems with the sequence of events. When Seth and Richie are driving down the highway, Richie's leg is sticking out of the window. But when viewed from inside the car, his leg is still inside the cabin, and only later does he stick it out the window. Before Richie's death, his face suddenly changes from disfigured to almost normal, and then back to disfigured again. Anatomy mysteries. Richie shows a hole in his palm, but then calmly bends his fingers, even though with severed flexor tendons, he wouldn't be able to do that. Varied menu. In the motel, Richie is either eating a burger or drinking beer, depending on the camera angle, and the wrapper on one of the burgers that Seth is holding is white in the medium shot and brown with the big Kahuna logo in the close-up. The living tattoo. Seth's tattoo changes its shape in the motel and RV scenes. Lightning quick outfit change. Seth was wearing a white t-shirt all the time, but after being hit by Santanico Pandemonium, he suddenly appears in a black t-shirt. However, a minute later, it becomes white again. Kate the Sorceress. Kate stakes a vampire, but not a single drop of blood remains on her t-shirt. And when the vampire's head rolls toward Kate, she tries to stop it with her foot, but misses. Yet in the next shot, she steps on it. Sunny errors. The rays of the rising sun penetrate the bar from all sides, even though they should have come from only one direction. According to the plot, Seth meets Carlos early in the morning, but judging by the shadows, the sun is almost directly overhead. Favorite shot. As soon as Santanico Pandemonium finishes her show, Seth is seen applauding in a close-up and saying, "That's what I call a fucking show!" But in the next wide shot, he does the same thing again, but silently. What amusing inconsistencies did you notice in the film? Share them in the comments. Deleted scenes and bloopers. From Dusk Till Dawn already stands out with its impressive brutality, but originally, the massacre and fight scenes at the Titty Twister were even longer and harsher, with a greater number of vampire and human deaths. They had to be shortened to maintain the pace of the story and to secure the desired R rating, which allowed the film to have a wide release. Moreover, the makeup artists worked on a special effect. The stomach of one of the stripper vampires turns into a large mouth that bites off the bartender's head. However, the scene turned out so realistic that even Tarantino found it unpleasant to watch. In the American TV version, the original name of the bar, Titty Twister, was changed to Kitty Twister. The neon breast was blurred out, and the violence in the final part was cut down as much as possible. And now, let's enjoy a selection of bloopers and other funny moments from the set.
The range is in the back. Let me do that one more time. I'm sorry. Can one more time? I'm sorry.
When sunlight hits them, Carlos. Fuck!
This bar. Sorry.
Just as well be a piece of fucking shit.
Worldwide recognition. From Dusk Till Dawn was released on January 19th, 1996. It became the highest grossing film of the week, earning over $10 million, but quickly began to lose ground and ultimately grossed only $25.8 million in the United States. Information about its international box office is conflicting, but it is known that Rodriguez's film was banned in Ireland due to excessive and senseless violence. The film received mixed reviews from critics. Some experts called it a pleasant, though uneven hybrid of a crime drama and a vampire movie. Others accused it of meaningless exploitation of violence and called it one of the worst films of the year. Despite the lukewarm critical reception, From Dusk Till Dawn received 8 nominations for the Saturn Awards and won 2 of them, Best Horror Film and Best Actor for George Clooney. Clooney's performance was recognized as the breakthrough of the year by the MTV Movie Awards, and also won Best Actor at the Fangoria Chainsaw Awards, specializing in horror and thrillers. At the same time, Quentin Tarantino was nominated for the Golden Raspberry and Stinkers Bad Movie Awards in the category of Worst Supporting Actor, but surprisingly lost to Marlon Brando for the disastrous The Island of Dr. Moreau. The first audiences were not particularly enthusiastic about Rodriguez and Tarantino's creation, but gradually the film built its own fan base, thanks to which it gained cult status. A graphic novel based on From Dusk Till Dawn was also released, and Rammstein shot their music video for the song Angle as a tribute to the film. The film's growing popularity also inspired several sequels. In 1998, From Dusk Till Dawn 2: Texas Blood Money was released, which was not a continuation, but rather a midquel, meaning an addition to the main story. Incidentally, the lead role was played by Robert Patrick, the T-1000 from Terminator 2. And in 1999, the prequel From Dusk Till Dawn 3, The Hangman's Daughter, was released. It had actually been filmed before the official second part, but for some reason was released later. Both films were direct-to-video releases and received negative reviews from critics. Danny Trejo became the only actor to appear in all 3 films, and Tarantino and Rodriguez participated as executive producers. A true continuation for the story came in the form of a video game for Windows, released in 2001. The original film, From Dusk Till Dawn, became one of the most prominent works for its actors and creators. The role of Seth took George Clooney's career to a new level. He became one of Hollywood's major stars, excelling not only in acting, but also as a director and producer, winning 2 Oscars. For Quentin Tarantino, the role of Richie became his largest acting role, but he later decided to focus on directing and screenwriting, continuing to successfully release new films, each gaining well-deserved recognition and audience love. The other actors continue to actively appear in new films and series. Juliette Lewis has been developing her music career since the 2000s, and Salma Hayek, Cheech Marin, Danny Trejo, and Tom Savini have repeatedly collaborated with Robert Rodriguez. Meanwhile, Ernest Liu failed to build an acting career. He played a few more minor roles in little-known 90s projects, and later occasionally worked behind the scenes as a camera assistant and producer. In 2014, Rodriguez returned to the From Dusk Till Dawn franchise, expanding it into a TV series of the same name. Its plot largely repeats the story of the original film, but is supplemented with new events and characters. The series was warmly received by critics and audiences, and ran for 3 seasons of 10 episodes each. What do you think made From Dusk Till Dawn a cult classic?